Brains! Act 10, the nervous system. Our brains are part of the nervous system. The nervous system governs both conscious thought and everyday involuntary actions. Oops! Splat! I'll just clean this off a bit. Brush, brush. In the animal kingdom, brains range from the size of a beach ball, blue whale, to a simple network of nerve cells in a jellyfish. Let's take a look at all the parts of the human nervous system and see what they do. Here's the brain, the spinal ganglion, the spinal cord. Here's nerves, the radial nerve, the sciatic nerve. All these nerves have names that you could study for medical school. The brain is connected to the rest of the body through the spinal cord and nerves. Nerves, in turn, pass along sensory messages to and from areas near and far. Shown here are only a few of the specific nerves in the human body. There are lots more. Just as the arteries and veins carry blood, nerves carry messages. Our nervous system allows us to sense pain and pleasure, move fast and slow, read and write and talk, and chew and swallow and digest, whether it's a direct command from the brain or an involuntary response from our network of nerves. Here's a message. Oh, thank you. The nervous system delivers a lot of messages. You want to move your foot? Your nervous system has to pass the command from your brain to your foot. Aha! This is a letter from my brain to remind me to first talk about nerve cells called neurons. Looking inside, neurons. So here's the cell body. You might recognize the nucleus and the mitochondria. Nerve cells are specialized. They have dendrites to collect signals and axon to send signals. It's protected by these bundles called myelin sheaths. At the end of the axon where it's sending out a signal, it's called the synapse. That's the gap where it passes a signal to a next nerve cell on its dendrites. Messages travel from neuron to neuron via the dendrites and synapses. The myelin sheaths protect and insulate the axon so it can successfully carry the message. Chemicals called neurotransmitters are exchanged at the synapse, passing along the message to the next nerve cell. Neurons are specialized cells. They cannot divide to replace themselves. Once damage is done to the cell body, it is permanent. Cell body. However, an axon, if damaged, can rebuild and repair itself and its myelin sheaths. Neurons are bundled together within nerves, and there are over 30,000 miles, 50,000 kilometers, of nerves in a single human body. Here's a look at how those nerves send and receive information, and for this demonstration we'll be using everybody's favorite guinea pig, finger. Nerves in the skin can sense pain, as well as pressure and temperature. I hate you. Neurons respond to a stimulus and send out an electrical impulse. Poke. Ouch! Ouch, 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 ouch. This electrical impulse travels through the nerves, to the spinal cord, and then on to the brain. Ouch! All this happens almost instantaneously, in just a fraction of a second. Let's shift our focus to the spinal cord. All the nerves that feed into the spinal cord are called peripheral nerves. Peripheral means around the outside, the periphery. Their job is to carry messages to and from the far reaches of the body, like your fingertips and toes. And those vertebrae that form the spine, the bones, they are specially shaped to protect the spinal cord. Here's the spinal cord all the way down, and it's wrapped around by each vertebra of your backbone. The cervical spine nerves connect to the nerves in the face, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, and fingers. That's this part. Thoracic nerves, thoracic means chest, those connect to the throat, heart, lungs, and chest, as well as most of the major abdominal organs. Lumbar nerves, in your lower back, connect to the large intestine, reproductive organs, legs, and feet. Finally, near the end of the spinal cord, the sacral nerves connect to the buttocks, legs, feet, and toes. The spinal cord is split up into sections that are responsible for the involuntary actions. Involuntary means you didn't do it on purpose. Of the internal organs and body parts. This command network is known as the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, or ANS for short, has two roles: the fight or flight response and the rest and digest response. Usually, our body is in rest and digest mode, and it operates our organs in a normal way. These functions are run by a part of the ANS called the parasympathetic nervous system. Your heart beats at its regular pace, and your digestive system does its job, digesting. In an emergency, our body switches to fight or flight mode. This helps us defend ourselves or run away from danger. When we are in danger, a part of the ANS called the sympathetic nervous system steps up to the plate. Your heart rate increases, digestion slows, and your body prepares to defend itself or run away. And just like the involuntary actions it oversees, the autonomic nervous system is also involuntary. You don't have to think to make your heart beat, stomach digest, or lungs breathe. On the topic of thinking, I think it's about time we introduce the motherboard, the big kahuna, the brain. Made of over 12 billion neurons, nerve cells, the brain has a ton of jobs. For one, it works with the spinal cord to monitor and regulate involuntary bodily functions. But the brain also controls voluntary actions. If you want to wave your arm or wiggle your toes, those commands come straight from the brain. Perhaps the most important duty is the brain's role in consciousness and intellectual functions, like thinking. The brain allows us to think, feel, invent, and create. Whew, I'm getting ahead of myself. First, let's look at the parts of the brain. The outer brain and the inner brain. On the outer brain, the cerebral cortex covers the whole outside of the brain, the cerebrum. The frontal lobe is home to conscious thought. It also plays a role in planning and organization, as well as acting as short-term memory storage. The parietal lobe interprets sensory information, like touch, smell, and taste, and it helps us to manipulate objects. The temporal lobe processes smell and sound, and is responsible for recognizing faces and places. The cerebellum helps with movement and physical tasks. The occipital lobe is dedicated to the sense of sight. The brainstem connects the brain to the spinal cord. Now, the inner brain you would only see if you were dissecting a brain. You might dissect a cow brain in high school or on a field trip. This is inside. This is all the outside. Here's if you sliced a brain open, what you would see inside. The thalamus helps the outer brain communicate with the inner brain. It also receives input from senses like touch, hearing, and sight. The hippocampus is responsible for both short and long-term memory, as well as helping us to navigate in different spaces. The pituitary gland is part of the endocrine system, and it regulates stress, growth, and reproductive hormones. The amygdala oversees emotions, emotional learning, memory, and decision-making. Remember, that was the outside of the cerebellum for movement and physical tasks. Here's the inside if you were to slice it open. There are a lot of actions that the brain controls. Movement coordination, senses, sight and vision, more movement, association and connections, smell, thought, actions like reading or listening. It probably doesn't feel like work to read these words, but you should know that your brain is busy at work, making sense of the words and pictures to interpret what I'm saying. It says here that you're not just reading each word, but also stringing them together to form whole sentences, whole chapters. Whoa. So, how did we learn this whole reading thing in the first place? Aha! Memory. Look, he's reading the book that we're reading. That's so cool. The brain stores all different types of memories. Everything from where you put your keys, to how to do long division, to the smell of your favorite cookies baking. Back to reading. Do you remember when you started learning to read? Probably not, because it started with learning letters and numbers, then the alphabet, and then some words, and more words. All this time, you were learning to speak and write as well. Learning, memory, thinking. The more you do of all these things, the more connections your brain makes, the better it gets. The better it gets for your brain and you. Listen. The more you do learning, thinking, and memory, the more connections you make and the better it gets. Take a good look at these objects. Now turn the page. Without looking at the previous page, see if you can remember all of the objects. Extra points if you remember where they go. How many did you remember? I think I only remembered the tree and the donut and the bug. How did you do? Memory games like that are push-ups for your brain. Just like every other system in the body, it is important to keep your nervous system healthy. Here are some ways to keep your brain engine tuned up and running. Sleep is our body's natural way of recharging its batteries. Our heart never stops beating. Our stomach never stops digesting, and our lungs never stop breathing. And our neurons never stop firing. But without sleep, our whole body cannot function. Dreams are a great example of the brain's activity during sleep. Eating healthy is good for the whole body, and the brain needs nutrients to work best too. Eating regular meals is also important. If you've ever skipped a meal or forgotten breakfast, you've felt the consequences. Brain foods. So these little notes at the bottom are called footnotes. The star goes back to a star up here. It's about the extra points, and it says, I lied. There are no points at all. This ain't a quiz. More healthy things for your brain. Exercise. I don't mean jumping jacks, but of course those are fine too. Challenging your brain in different ways. Learning a new skill, sport, or activity, making new friends, even playing games. These are all good ways to keep your brain fresh. Woohoo! I think you're getting the hang of this. Helmets. This may seem like a no-brainer, but physically protecting your brain and spinal cord is important too. Our body comes with its own bony helmet. Thanks, skull. But if you are participating in an activity or sport that has a risk of impact, wearing a helmet can prevent injury to the head and neck. Knock, knock. Even when we take top-notch care of our brains, they can still give us a headache. Headaches are not actually a pain in the brain. Believe it or not, the brain can't actually feel pain because it lacks the pain-sensing neurons found elsewhere in the body. Headaches are usually caused by the blood vessels in the head and neck. Tension headaches are caused by the head and neck muscles squeezing too hard, usually as a result of stress. Eye strain, often caused by looking too long at a television or computer screen, can be another headache inducer. I guess I should take a break. As well as dehydration. So drink that water. Sassy hydration pose. All of these things can cause a dull ache in the head and neck. A migraine is a more severe headache, characterized by sharp, throbbing pain in the head, sensitivity to light, dizziness, and nausea. Headaches can be caused by lots of other things. They could be a symptom of another illness, like a cold or the flu. Lack of sleep or exhaustion. I've been awake for 24 hours. Caffeine, a substance found in coffee, tea, and some sodas. Slurp. And stress. I have a test in every subject tomorrow. Woo! Here are some ways to prevent headaches. Drink plenty of water. Get plenty of sleep. Rest after vigorous activities. Reduce eye strain by limiting computer and TV. Remember to wear glasses if you need them. Consider sporting some sunglasses if you are out in the sun for a long time. If you already have a headache, here are some ways to help recover. Drink water. Get plenty of rest or sleep in a dark, quiet room if you can. People might take pain medicine, like a pain reliever, to help get rid of a headache. But check with an adult or doctor first. This body is starting to feel pretty good. You're welcome. We spent so much time looking at what's on the inside. I think it's about time we looked at the outside, or rather, how we experience the world. It's time for us to use our senses. And that is the next chapter of our book.